Hey guys, it's Ruben on Connection Loop. This is Dub's podcast. We're all about sharing stories here, meeting people, networking. So Brian actually is one of the only 100 people, as I understand it, that has access to LinkedIn Live. I really want to understand that, Brian. But more importantly, I want to understand your origin story and how you got into your situation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. And it's great to be with you. And I'm honored to be a guest on your show. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Here, let's answer the first question that you had. So in terms of LinkedIn Live, it's really new, right? It's in beta, and I actually got access on my birthday, which was May 13th. It just popped up. It was a really nice present to see. And I'm all about the experience. Like, I love taking people along with me for the journey. That's kind of my jam. So I've taken people with me behind the scenes in my son's, he's a jazz musician. So my very first one was behind the scenes in a parade that he was performing in with his schoolmates. So both behind the scenes and then actually in the parade. And then other conferences I've been at, I just streamed live for 4 hours at Vid Summit, which was just over the last couple days. But yeah, there's only about 100 of us across the globe that have access. It's really very locked down. And being in beta and with live, right, it's really different than just video. So LinkedIn has partnered up with some incredible companies to be able to provide you the ability to stream live on LinkedIn. And there's tons of them. You can share them in the show notes, but definitely a big fan. And again, it's one of those things that's great to be able to bring people together. It's really starting to pick up. I love seeing all the new faces that are actually starting to get access and pop in. So, and supporting everyone, because that's what LinkedIn is all about, right? It's rallying together to support everyone that's showing up, whether it be on video or LinkedIn Live. Yeah, it's an awesome adventure.
Good for you. That's very cool. I mean, it sounds like you've really built a career based on creating content, being a personality. I see that you have, almost 40,000 followers on LinkedIn. What was that process like for you? How did you end up in that kind of role? And what did you do beforehand?
I'm going to take you really back to the very beginning. And it literally starts with me being a 1.5 pound miracle baby coming into this world that wasn't supposed to live. And then growing up with a neurological disorder called Tourette syndrome, which are uncontrollable tics and twitches. And usually you don't know you're doing them. So in the height of this early teen years, I was jumping up and down, somersaulting from room to room, making lots of facial expressions, lots of auditory noises. And like I said, more times than not, you weren't aware you were doing them. And a lot of these would commingle. So I was already always the small kid, and then I was the weird kid. So putting that all together, I dealt with a lot of adversity and bullying growing up. I had a hard time fitting in. I was always the last kid picked. And honestly, I really didn't know who my friends were because there was a lot of tongue in cheek that happened in terms of my Tourette's. So I started to kind of break out of my shell a little bit along the way. By the way, so back in the 80s, Tourette's was a really new thing. So we'd go from doctor to doctor to doctor and test upon test upon test. And every doctor would say the same thing. Oh, he's fine. He'll grow out of it, because they didn't know what it was. And my mom was determined to find an answer. So we wound up eventually at UCLA Medical Center, where there was a specialist that said, there's a name for this thing. Here's what it is. It's relatively new and there's no cure for it. There's no FDA approved drugs or anything like that. We have some things that are being tested. And so I wound up testing this drug called clonidine, which was basically a suppressor, right? Well, the side effects were horrible because I'd literally be falling asleep for 30 minutes at a time in class or really wherever I was. It wasn't an ideal scenario, but the thing is, while it may have helped, it hurt me at the same time. So I took it for a number of years, and eventually, once I got diagnosed, and this was 5th grade, I stood up in front of my classmates and my teachers and whatever parents were there and said, this is what this thing is, right? You're not going to catch it. It's not contagious. And while I was terrified and relieved at the same time, to be frank, like just being able to like let it out and let people know this is me, right? And there was a lot of support, which was great. Went through, like I said, a lot of really interesting times on my journey. Definitely some dark moments. My mom shares stories about how I'd come home from school and bring home pictures from art class or whatever, and they were really, really dark. There were no colors at all. And then all of a sudden I'd come home one day and after a period of time and bring this really bright watercolored fish. It didn't look like a fish, but but my mom loved it, right? Because it was like this pivotal moment where there was a shift. And I think it's interesting because like these shifts happened a few times along my way where while I had a lot of positivity in my life, one negative can overshadow 1,000 positives. And those were hard moments for me. And I went through therapy for a while and it didn't help. I think really it was just having my mom there that was really the epicenter of things for me. And, I'd come home from school bawling and asking her, why did nobody like me? And why did everybody make fun of me? Because I really didn't get it. I didn't understand what was happening. She'd take me into the bathroom and she had this big mirror and we'd sit down and she says, okay, look, I want to show you something. And so she does every tick and twitch that I'm doing at the time and then looks at me and goes, okay, let her rip. Whatever you've got in you, just let it go. And apparently I did because I would try to kind of keep it all held in. And the problem is when you do that, it's like a volcano waiting to erupt. So I let it all out and then she says, okay, and puts on some music and we start dancing. This is my mom. My best friend, my genuine hero, like she's been my rock forever. So now kind of fast forward, and I'm sharing this all with you because it all takes you to today. I start to kind of 8th grade decide, okay, I'm Jewish by faith. I was getting ready to get bar mitzvahed and I said to my mom, I don't want to take this medicine anymore. I don't want these drugs. I don't like what it's doing to me. So I don't want to take it. And she was concerned because there were a lot of people that were showing up and, I was getting bar mitzvahed, which is basically when you become a man.
Sure.
And so she was concerned that I would have some issues getting through all this. And so she said, okay, are you sure? And I said, yes. And apparently what I told her was, I'll be okay. They all know me. They're all here for me. I don't need it. And so she said, okay, well, I'll keep them with me in case you ever need them. And so I never took the medicine again. I think, partially determined to control something that was uncontrollable. And I had a number of natural calming mechanisms along my way that helped me. I've been a musician my whole life. I play by ear. It's all about feel for me. My grandfather was a jazz musician. He in Chicago originally, and then in the studios in LA until he passed. Was an incredible, incredible man, huge heart musician. He worked in the schools to teach kids about the power of music and really, really, really cool stuff. But
I'm a drummer.
Oh, right on. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I started playing the keys. I'd sit in front of the piano for hours in the dark as a kid, just playing. And it was like, and you'd relate to this, it was like I was in another body.
Oh, yeah.
Like I just was so into the music. And I think it was because of that focus and that concentration of where I was.
Well, it's your energy being channeled in such a creative way,
Yeah, for sure. So music has always been a really huge part of my life. And it was always, again, something that helped me. Comedy, interesting, was another part. I loved watching comedians growing up back in the 80s, Sam Kinison. And these were all physical comedians.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think about this until later in life, right? Like, early on, Jim Carrey,
Gallagher,
Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy. Like I loved watching the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
I think again, I could relate to them in different ways. They were funny, but they were acting all really weird. And dancing was another one. My mom always said, "I'm going to teach you how to dance, and you're going to love me for it because all the girls are going to love you." And so we did a lot of dancing together. But I think back because I do have a degree in psychology, and I got it because I wanted to better understand myself. And then just other human beings. Because again, having gone through what I went through, I just didn't get people. But I thought, maybe I love dancing because it allowed me to just be me as I normally am, but in a sea of people who feel like they're acting different and weird, right? They're moving in different ways they wouldn't normally walk on the street that way or making noises or different facial expressions, and so those are the 3 things that actually really made a big impact in my life in terms of kind of natural calming mechanisms. And they've always stayed with me. So now as I take you along the journey, I get into high school, I start to kind of break out of my shell a little bit. And something flipped in my head along the way where I said, okay, you know what? I don't ever want anyone to feel the way that I felt. I don't want anyone to be treated the way that I was treated. And I want them to feel good and lifted up and happy and, just positive when they leave from me. So I started to bring people together. My house was the house people came to hang out at. My parents fostered, all of that and graduation parties and all that kind of stuff. Again, just bringing people together. And then in college, I really broke out of my shell and got involved in a lot of stuff. I found my love for startups because I was a founder of my fraternity at San Diego State. Shout out to Phi Kappa Theta. It's a nationwide fraternity.
With Dub, you can easily send your business videos from Gmail, LinkedIn, CRMs, and so many more places, but you don't have to take my word for it.
Absolutely perfect.
Screen records, landing pages that can really help businesses to grow.